Did you know Australia once sent soldiers with machine guns to fight birds? Yeah, actual soldiers, actual machine guns, actual birds. And here's the ridiculous part. The birds basically won. The year was 1932. The place was Western Australia. And the enemy was not an army. It was emus. 20,000 fast, stupidly confident birds walking through wheat farms like the whole countryside was a buffet. And at first, this sounds funny. But for the farmers, it was a nightmare. After World War I, many Australian veterans had been given land and told to build a new life. The idea sounded noble. Give soldiers farms, let them grow wheat, let them start again. Beautiful idea. Terrible timing. Because then came the Great Depression. Wheat prices dropped, money dried up, the land was already difficult. So these farmers were not just trying to grow crops. They were trying to survive. And then, right when things were already bad, the emus arrived. Every year, emus migrated across Western Australia, following food and water. But now, where there used to be open land, there were wheat farms. To a farmer, that wheat was food, money, and survival. To an emu, it was lunch. So the birds walked in and started eating. They ate the crops, they trampled the fields, they broke fences. And when the fences broke, rabbits got in too. Now the farmers had a question. How do you stop 20,000 giant birds that do not care about property law? Many of the farmers were former soldiers, so they had a very direct answer. Not scarecrows, not polite letters to nature, not a strongly worded meeting. Machine guns. And somehow the government listened. The Minister for Defense, Sir George Pearce, approved the plan, and Major G.P.W. Meredith was sent to handle the problem. He had a small military team, 2 Lewis guns, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. For birds. Now, on paper, this looks simple. Find the emus, herd them together, wait until they were close. And then, brat, problem solved. Except no. Because the plan had one tiny problem. The emus had not agreed to the plan. The operation began on November 2nd, 1932. The soldiers found a group of emus and the farmers tried to drive them toward the guns. And this is where the army learned something important. Birds do not march in formation. The emus scattered. Not heroically, not strategically. No secret bird general giving a speech. They just ran everywhere. Left. Right. Back. Gone. One big target became a bunch of small moving targets. Fast targets, zigzag targets, extremely annoying targets. And suddenly, the machine guns were not solving the problem. They were just making the problem run faster. The Lewis guns were made for formations, for soldiers, for enemies that stay somewhere long enough to be enemies. But an emu sprinting sideways through scrubland is not a formation. It is a feathered refusal. Then came November 4th. This was supposed to be the big moment. More than 1,000 emus gathered near a dam. Perfect. Finally, the army had them. The soldiers waited. The birds came closer. The gun was ready. And then, click. The machine gun jammed. A few birds were hit. The rest ran away. And somewhere in the universe, comedy became law. But they did not quit there. They kept trying. Rain slowed them down. The ground was rough. The birds kept splitting into smaller groups. And then came one of the most cartoon ideas in the whole operation. They mounted a machine gun on a truck. Which sounds clever. Until you picture it. A truck bouncing across rough Australian land, with soldiers trying to aim a shaking machine gun at birds running in every direction. The emus going pat, 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 pat. The truck going bonk, bonk, bonk. The gun going brrr. And the bullets going absolutely nowhere useful. Elite military pest control. And yes, the newspapers noticed. Of course they noticed. Because when the army is struggling against oversized chickens with turbo legs, people are going to talk. By November 8th, the first operation was called off. The soldiers had fired thousands of rounds. The emus had mostly left. And the farm still had a problem. So at this point, you might think the story is over. The army goes home. The birds win. Roll credits. But no. The farmers were still desperate, so the military came back for a second round. This time, they did better. They hunted smaller groups. They killed more birds. They learned that emus were not a normal battlefield target. But even then, the numbers were awkward. By the end, Major Meredith reported 986 emus killed. With 9,860 rounds fired, that is about 10 bullets per confirmed emu. Not exactly a clean victory. And remember, there were about 20,000 emus. So the army had not destroyed the problem. It had mildly reduced the guest list. Eventually, the real solution became much less dramatic. Farmers got ammunition, fences improved. Local control worked better than the military spectacle. No grand final battle, no heroic victory speech, no emu signing a surrender document with a tiny pen. Just farmers, fences, bullets, and time. And that is why the Great Emu War is still hilarious. Not because the emus were geniuses. They were not tactical masterminds. They did not have uniforms. They did not have a flag. They probably did not even know there was a war. They just had speed, chaos, legs, and absolutely no interest in standing still. The humans brought soldiers. The humans brought machine guns. The humans brought a plan. The emus brought running. And somehow, that was enough. Officially, Australia did not lose a war to birds. Officially, it was a failed pest control operation. But history does not care about boring official names. If a government sends soldiers, machine guns, and 10,000 bullets into a field, and the birds are still there when everyone goes home, the story gets to name itself. The Great Emu War. And you know what? The emus have not commented yet. If you liked this one, the next video is right here. Go watch that. And as always, let me know what you think down below. Thanks for watching, dummies. I'll see you in the next one.